Chess World Championship 20. You can see Javokhir Sindarov in his green jacket there, and he shakes hands with Magnus Carlsen. Let's have a look at this freestyle chess position. We have a knight in the corner, a rook, king, bishop, queen, rook, bishop, knight. Well, it's interesting that none of the pieces are on their normal positions like in a standard game of chess. Everything is scrambled up, and maybe f4 played to open up the bishop could be an idea. d4 to open up the queen could be an idea. e4 also. Knight could jump out from b3 or g3. Many possibilities here as the players shake hands and off we go. Magnus opens with pawn to f4, and he opens up the bishop here. Knight comes out to c6, and knight to b3 played, bringing the knight out. Magnus gets up from the chair, puts his jacket back on it. By the way, the f4 move was attacking the a7 pawn, so the knight came out and blocked it. And f5 played by Sindarov. Bishop comes out to d4, putting pressure on the g7 pawn. Not an easy pawn to defend actually, because if you play knight queen g6, there's knight g3. So g5 played. Wow, what a move. He takes the knight. It's a free knight, but bishop takes b3. A takes, and now you can actually take the bishop here. Rook takes, and Magnus says thank you Javokhir for the extra pawn. Pawn to e6, attacking the pawn on g5 by the bishop. You go pawn to h4, defending the pawn. Now h6 seems like a very logical move. Wow, in the spirit of Benko Gambit. Magnus thinks and takes the pawn. G takes h6. Rook takes h6. And pawn to g3 played. So white is a pawn up, but black's position is quite interesting. His pieces are free flowing. He goes d5. And knight to f2. Slowly, maybe Magnus wants e3. h5 defended by the bishop, then g4. That would be a very cool improvement in his position. Knight goes back to d7. So Sindarov maybe trying to get his knight here to f6. Pawn to e3 played. And now he plays pawn to c6. Maybe bishop c7 to hit the pawn on g3. After all, that's the weakness. h5 played. But can we not go knight f6 now to just attack this? Well, then there's g4. He goes rook h8. And knight to d3 played. Maybe the knight would like to come to f4 and then to the g6 square. Knight comes to f6. Knight f4 played. Magnus clinging on to his extra pawn. Rook h7 played. Now with the idea of e5 and perhaps picking up the pawn on h5. But the rook comes and defends it. Bishop c7. Threatening to take here and here. Knight g6 played. Tricky. But now knight takes h5 is possible. The rook defends it. So he goes long castle here. Wow. And Magnus goes pawn to d3. Maybe opening up this queen here. King b8 played. And bishop f3. Well, Javokhir has been playing so well here, and so has Magnus. It's been a high-class game. Will Javokhir go e5, e4? Just getting the pawn down the board. Yes, he pushes forward. e5 on the board. And long castle played. Pawn comes up to e4. Takes. Knight takes. Wow. Okay. There's pressure now on g3. Some serious pressure. I think he has to take the knight, no? He does take it. Queen takes e4. And now king steps away. King to b1. But the e3 pawn is weak. g3 pawn is weak. h5 pawn is a weakness, so Javokhir actually assessing the position brilliantly. Queen goes here, rook h4. Well, maybe you can actually take this. Queen g3 takes would give a strong h pawn, so bishop takes could have been better, but queen g5 even stronger. Knight f4 played. So if you take, he wants to take back with the e pawn, improving the structure. So rook g8 played. Wow, attacking g3. Rook comes back to h3. Now queen g4. Not only looking at the rook, both the rooks actually on d1 and h1. Rook, queen goes to h1 here. And Sindarov now plays rook e8. He's going after the e3 pawn. He's playing so well. Matching Magnus move for move. Magnus has 44 seconds. Rook h4. Attacking the queen. Now shall we take the pawn? Queen takes g3. No, he doesn't. He stays on. Queen f3 played. And a6. Javokhir is trusting his position. He feels it that he has enough here. Rook to h1. Defending the pawn on h5. Rook h6. And pawn to g4. The bishop goes out to b6. Knight to g2 played. Defending the pawn on e3. Well, one's position has improved a bit. Takes queen e5. And now rook g6, offering a trade. He comes back. And h6 played. The king moves to the side. That's a very good prophylactic move. It will come in handy later. Queen f4. But now bishop takes e3. Equalizes on the spot. He can play it. Bishop takes e3 is the move. Plays it with just 15 seconds on the clock. Magnus 29 seconds. You can see Magnus feeling the discomfort there. Maybe he missed this move. He's ready to take the queen. But then it's all even. Takes, knight takes. And rook takes. He pushes his pawn to b4. Now it's all equal now. 4 pawns per side. He brings his king up. Rook h5 played. Threatening rook takes d5. The pawn is pinned. Tricky Magnus. Maybe king b5. Come up ahead. He goes back. He's like king on a7 is safe. c3. Now rook to f3. It's always difficult playing such endgames against Magnus. He's the endgame goat. He always finds some ways to put on the pressure. Rook to e3. Rook comes back to h2. And now he stays there. He's bringing his king in. And Sindarov's main problem is that this rook is passive. King b6. He brings the rook. He brings the king. And if one pair of rooks get traded, that would be a big problem because then the king would come up. So rook f4. And rook g7 played. Now you can take it. Takes. Puts the rook behind the pawn. Rook h7. And a5. Just trading off pieces should be a good idea. Have to be always careful about queen and attack here on b7, which could come in. He goes king b5. King f3, rook goes to g1, b3, and look at Magnus tricky. He's threatening to queen and checkmate here. Go back, Javokhir. No blunders. A big blunder, and look at Magnus. He makes a queen. Oh my god, Javokhir Sindarov misses that moment and he resigns because he takes the queen. Rook takes b7 is checkmate. Wow, what a miss that was. And what an incredible game by both the players, especially Sindarov, who played so well, but in the end, he just missed his chance. And Magnus Carlsen, as attentive as ever, scores his first point in this event.